You are listening to the Barbra May Show, the place where we discuss all that really matters. We will cover all you need to know about lifestyle, health, spirituality, and plus so much more. Are you ready? Let's dive in. You are listening to episode 8 with Alexandra Prince. Alexandra is a global certified success coach, soul guide, and a financial empowerment mentor. Alexandra is passionate about helping women to become financial free. In this episode, we will talk about sugar daddies, toxic relationships, spiritual healing, cryptocurrency, and financial independence. Welcome, Alexandra, to my podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. My first question for you is, what are you grateful for?
So I am grateful for my beautiful French bulldog, Buster Prince. He's gorgeous. He's absolutely amazing. He's literally, I'm sure he's the most wonderful soul, and he was sent to me. He's been so healing for me in my journey. So yeah, I'm very grateful for him.
Do you know what? That's so nice, because so many people say, oh, I'm grateful for my partner, but yeah.
I'm grateful for my dog.
Love it.
Dog owners out there will understand.
Oh, brilliant. Before we dive in, can you please tell us, who is Alexandra Prince?
Yeah, of course. I'm a global financial empowerment leader for women and a spiritual teacher. I've been on a journey of transformation and spiritual growth for about the last 7-8 years. All kind of started actually about 10 years ago when I went through a really deep period of depression, almost to the point of wanting to take my life, actually standing on the balcony on the 42nd floor tower of a luxury apartment building in Dubai, and actually calling my dad and saying goodbye. So it was a really, really difficult time. Anyway, as time went on past that, I started to find healing through authors and spiritual teachers such as Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, and that was how my journey began. I went to live out in Thailand. I kind of had my own experience of Eat, Pray, Love, which is a slightly different twist, because I was actually living that journey of my own transformation, but also still in a very toxic and violent relationship, which isn't how she lived the journey in Eat, Pray, Love. But I still had my own journey of spiritual growth through that. But I had a lot of other work to do before that relationship came to an end. And then I really then went on a journey of self-empowerment and true healing and transformation. And that's where I am now. And one of the things that I always promised myself was that I would become financially free in my own right, because for much of my life, I'd found myself to be dependent on men. And I'd stayed in relationships, for example, for the reason of feeling that I wouldn't have as good a life, or I didn't have the ability to look after myself financially. And it wasn't that I couldn't. It was that I had always had this kind of vision and dream that it would be, I'd meet a rich guy. I'm sure there are many, many women out there, I'm not the only one, that would look almost for a prince to rescue me. And that I'd been around a lot of affluent, very wealthy men from my early 20s. And I just had that vision that I would find a rich man and he would rescue me. But that was not what the universe had planned for me. And I know now just actually how debilitating that vision and that kind of Disney delusion, I call it, of finding the prince, finding the fairy tale, and him coming to rescue me had been keeping me small. So then I went on a journey, obviously, of transformation and finding myself. And a part of that journey really was that I wanted to become financially dependent in my own right. And that in itself has been such an empowering part of my journey. And I now am financially dependent in my own right. Mm-hmm. Free of toxic relationships. I'm now with somebody, a very, very different type of relationship. And yeah, life is good right now, although I'm having challenges like we all do at the moment within my business. But that's because I'm scaling up at such a level. So the kind of challenges that I'm having now in my business are kind of different to the challenges that I used to have in my life, if that makes sense, because I have expanded as a multi-passionate entrepreneur with multiple businesses and multiple incomes. So with that comes greater challenges, if you like.
You know, I find it amusing, and you know, especially when it comes to depending on a man and thinking, okay, I need somebody who is wealthy because I will never be able to afford the house and pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that is related to confidence as such?
I think it can be related to confidence. I know my confidence has shot through the roof. Now I am financially independent. But what I do find is that when I was younger, I'd always been sort of, I would say there was an element of about being around 16, 17, where I would call it kind of almost, I was groomed within the music industry. So, you know, we hear about things such as Me Too, you know, that was big a couple of years ago, the whole Me Too kind of experience that we heard about in Hollywood. And I had my own kind of experience of that and what that's like. And I would say that because of that, it became where I kind of used my looks, if you like, because I went into modeling in my early 20s, and my looks became what I thought was my value. Mm-hmm. And so everything was based around that, in terms of, you know, if men, I knew that men wanted me, and I would use it as a bargaining tool. And it became, because of that early experience of almost kind of what I perceive as grooming, I feel that from that, it kind of led to a life path where I would often bargain with my my body and my looks as a way to get through life. So you think that it's, you know, you've heard the whole thing, sugar daddy, for example, is a term that's used a lot. And, you know, there were elements of my life where I kind of had those experiences, and you think that you're in control. You think that you're the one who is actually, you know, living the good life, and these people are supporting you or looking after you. But actually, it took me away from the essence of really everything I wanted, which was, you know, a husband, children, a family. But I became addicted to a different kind of life, if you like, and lifestyle. And so it was very difficult for me to then accept a kind of normal life with a normal guy. And even though that's all I wanted, what I mean by normal is the wrong term, but somebody who we were building a life together, where we would maybe contribute together financially and build this. But there were always men around me in my 20s that wanted to give me things, but there was always a price to pay. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And so, you know, a lot of my life has been around that kind of relationship dynamic. So what's really interesting is when I started to do work around this, and actually inner work around this, and the shame that came from that, and the guilt, and realized exactly the dynamic of what had been going on for a lot of my life with these kind of relationships with these type of older men, for example. And when I actually put a stop to that and recognized it truly for what it was when my life began to transform. And I actually cut, there was one particular man who was around for many, many years, and I had no real concept at the time of just how much he was keeping me away from my truth. Not him, I take responsibility that it was my choice, but I had no idea how that relationship and that experience was keeping me from everything I actually wanted. And by cutting that out and doing the healing work I had to do around the shame of things that had happened from kind of like 16, 17 until, you know, maybe my mid 30s, it was the having to forgive myself for all of that I had chosen to experience, to then finding my true self and standing in my own power. And that's why I am an advocate for women's empowerment, and especially financial empowerment, because even though we know it's our choice, it was my choice to live a lifestyle like that, it actually kept me so far removed from who I really am and my soul path. But what I love is that it actually was a part of my soul path, because I wouldn't be where I am today. And, you know, desiring to be an advocate for showing women actually that when you take charge of yourself, of your freedom, of your you know, every part of your life, that you will then become the most empowered version of you.
I was just about to say that you wouldn't be where you are if you haven't had those experiences. I'm glad that you mentioned the sugar daddy. You didn't say sugardaddy.com, but you said the concept of sugar daddy, because when it comes to sugardaddy.com, it's just very controlling concept, isn't it? You get all these rich guys who take you out for shopping and buy you all this nice stuff, take you on a holiday and give you like spending money. But it's nice, but you are not valued as a person. I think when it comes to like further relationship or friendship with those people, you're always going to be one of these people who have received money for company.
Absolutely. And what I would say to anybody, and I truly stand by this, is nothing in life comes for free. There's always going to be a lesson, and you've got to look at, take a step back and, what do they want from this? We all know, right? And then obviously they are utilizing that as a bargaining tool. But what I would say is where I had to do a lot of forgiveness work was these guys, they know what they're doing. When you're a plus 40, for example, fully mature gentleman, successful in your own right, and you go after, let's say, women in their early 20s. We know now, being a woman of 40 myself, how much more emotionally developed I am at age 40, how much more life experience I have. And we don't have that in our early 20s. So I do think, these men know exactly what they're doing. And I don't want to call them predators, right? Because it is a two-way street. And also, maybe they don't always realize the effect and the damage that actually they personally, and I know this doesn't stand for every woman, because there will be the argument that, other women will be like, well, I actually loved my experiences with sugar daddies, and I loved my experience of being, looked after by wealthier men. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy many, many years of it, because there was an element that I enjoyed a part of that lifestyle. But what I can also say is that it did have a hugely detrimental sort of effect on my life as well.
Yeah, when I was about 21, I went with someone very high profile. It took me to New York. Actually, my friend was dating this man, and she said, I want to take a friend with me because I just would feel safer, and all that kind of stuff. So we went to New York. We stayed in like one of the most expensive hotels. We had a private driver. We went on a helicopter. He gave us money to spend if we want to go on a shopping. We went to like the most exclusive restaurants. People were taking pictures of us because they probably just thought that we were celebrities. Because we had all these like security and all that kind of stuff. And I can't say that I didn't have a good time, but then the day comes that his brother joined us on a trip, and we went out for dinner, and I wasn't expecting this. And suddenly after the dinner, her brother came and knocked on my room. And so I let him in, and we talked and talked and talked, and he tried to have a sex with me, and I almost got raped. So the reason why I'm sharing this, obviously, because I just want to get out the experience. So people who are doing such a thing, they are just a bit careful with what outcome those actions could have. Nothing comes for free. So
absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a great time. But if that person was stronger and bigger than he was, I would probably regret this experience for the rest of my life.
Exactly. And that's where they kind of like there's such a fine line when these kind of cases go to court, or when, things like Me Too, I can understand and I can see these women that they came out at a later date. But what I also can see is both sides, because, as much as I've, on one breath, I'm here saying that I can see that they are to an extent predators. And in another breath, I see, well, these guys sometimes really didn't overthink it, and they actually believe in somewhere in them that these girls want it and that they are up for it and that they're getting something in return, so therefore it's okay. So there is a fine line with all of this. And yeah, I like to share my experiences of it, and I will be writing a book I've been writing for many years now, and it's never felt right for it to come out, because I don't feel like the final chapters have been written, if that makes sense. Not that they never end, because our life continues, but it has never felt really the right time. But as I've now stepped into this role within cryptocurrency, for example, and I'm working and investing into projects on the blockchain, and there's this whole new financial system now being developed within the world. I feel like this is almost one of the final chapters of my book, and then what I will do is release my whole story, just to show that, you know, there's just an example of a life story of somebody who came from being in that world, who was so, you know, into the sugar daddy thing and being looked after and wanting to find the rich husband, to them being in the completely opposite now mindset.
Totally. So let's talk about the financial independence. So you said 10 years ago you were somewhere else, then you found a financial freedom. How did you get there?
So I got there with a lot of deep spiritual healing work, working on the shadow self, I call it, really starting to deal with even past life trauma, understanding that some of what I was carrying wasn't necessarily coming from this life, not so much from working with others in terms of healers, but just knowing, a deep knowing within myself. So spent a lot of time on my own, a lot of time studying teachers, spiritual teachers, as I said, but then just going inward as well and finding that power within and learning how to trust my inner voice and learning how to trust my own knowing of this journey that I was on and what I was here for and what my purpose was, and then having confidence to step into that purpose and taking brave action and taking risks as well, financial risks. At the beginning of my journey, really stepping into cryptocurrency and blockchain full time was only in September of last year. So it was during the pandemic, the first lockdown we had in the UK in March of last year, was actually a time when I'd just been offered a job by a very, very successful businessman, multiple millionaire, high net worth, to go and work with him. But there was something about the dynamic of that relationship for me to go and work with him that just felt the same as if I had had a sugar daddy. It may have been an offered position. There wasn't any sexual connotation between us, but I just knew that there was a dynamic that felt like that sense of control still. Mm-hmm. And I thought that I didn't want to take that job, but I was like, well, what else am I going to do? You know, this has landed in my lap, great salary, and the pandemic was hitting. And I was like, well, at least I'm still going to get paid. And I had a beautiful company car, really nice BMW. And I was just like, no, I don't want all of that. I don't want this. And I just took the leap and I just said no to that job. And at the time I carried on earning a bit of money as a coach. I was doing women's empowerment coaching, and I came up with a course called Queen Empowered, and it was all about stepping into your inner queen. And I did a lot of healing work with the women that joined that coaching program that was similar to what I'd done for myself. I hadn't really learned it from anyone else. It is what I'd learned to help heal myself. And the women in that course had some real incredible transformational shifts. And I had very different women as well in that program. I say a course, it was one-to-one. I wasn't working with them in a group, but I had very, very different types of women, but they all had a similar shift in terms of finding their true self and stepping into their own power. And I realized what was happening here was it was a ripple effect of what I was doing for myself. And they were just maybe a few steps behind. And I was kind of just like guiding them really with what I was going through in that exact moment. And then when that came to kind of an end, and I'd been coaching with them for about I think it was 8 weeks, and then I was like, but I wanted to continue that business, but there was something in me was like, you're meant to be doing something around financial empowerment, and you're not just meant to be doing this coaching, even though you enjoy it, even though you could build this into something bigger. I just had this knowing that there was something that I needed to do around real, true financial empowerment for myself first and foremost. And that's when this opportunity came up. One of my friends, she'd actually shown it to me twice and I hadn't even looked at it. And she was like, I really think you need to look at this opportunity in this space. And then in the end, that same week, I did look at it, and I went all in on this opportunity. I took a major risk with a first investment of $35,000 US. And that was the beginning of my journey. Now, not everybody who comes into this space has to start with $35,000 US. That was my big leap into the industry. And that was the working capital that I began with and I've been working with, which I've now tripled in the space of the months that I've been in it, and I'm invested into multiple projects.
So are you referring this to cryptocurrency? Is that what it was?
Yeah, well, the three industries that I've got that I'm invested into projects are Forex, trading, cryptocurrency, and projects on the blockchain. So multiple projects. So I'm invested into a fund that invests into multiple projects over the blockchain. And a part of what I've been doing is referring others into these opportunities. But what I've recognized actually from my own growth very recently within the last week or two is that there's an element of what I'm doing where some of those projects are based around the more MLM style of opportunity. And what I've recognized is that's not where I see myself positioned. I see myself more positioned as a cryptocurrency wealth manager. And so what I want to do now is to kind of step away more from those MLM style opportunities and step more into taking on, say, like a kind of like a cryptocurrency consultant, and having a few select clients and acting like a wealth manager in the traditional sense, but within the crypto space.
How would you describe cryptocurrency to people who are listening and they don't know about it yet?
Okay, so I mean, in the terms of, you know, what is cryptocurrency, we really are just developing a whole new financial space, if you like. So if you think about currencies in the traditional term, we've got dollars, yen, pounds. We call that fiat currency. That's known as fiat currency. And then on the other side of that, you've got digital currency. Now, the one that most people know of is obviously Bitcoin. It's now become an asset in its own right, if you like, and it's becoming more stabilized as an asset because the larger institutions are beginning to include Bitcoin in their portfolios. So you've got huge companies coming in and investing large amounts into Bitcoin now. So it's almost got that same value as gold, for example. But aside from Bitcoin is, you know, when you talk about crypto, the first thing people think of is Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is just one coin, one currency. There are many other currencies, and they all have different purposes. There's a security tokens, for example, or you have exchanges like banks, but just for digital currency. So our own banks within the cryptocurrency space, and those exchanges also have what their own coins. And when people come and they use that exchange, so for example, if you want to convert Bitcoin into another coin, let's say, for example, USDT, which is a coin that is backed against the value of the US dollar. If you want to exchange that, then you could exchange that within that exchange, within that, if you like, bank. And that comes with a fee. Now, once people are using that exchange more and more, then it will drive the price of that coin. So one of the coins that I'm invested in, for example, is a coin called 𝐒𝐸, and that is the coin of an exchange called crypto.com, which is its own, and essentially its own digital. I don't like to use the term bank because we have crypto banks and crypto exchanges. They are slightly different, but it's somewhere where you will store your assets. So you would, just like you have your fiat currency, which is your pounds, your sterling, your yen, in the traditional bank, okay, let's call it NatWest in the UK, or Halifax or Lloyd's, then you would have it in one of these exchanges instead. And there are more and more of these exchanges opening worldwide within the, well, you know, when we say worldwide, it's in the space of crypto. So it's globally digital, you know, it's a global asset anyway. But I also invest into mining projects. So one of the projects that I'm invested into is there's a new exchange that's opening called the blockchain. My BlockX basically is the company, and we're mining our own coins, and those coins, for example, will be listed onto the exchange when people start to use that exchange to exchange other currency. So BlockX as an exchange will go live in the next couple of months. It was supposed to go live at the beginning of this year, but with projects there's always delays. Now, when people start to use that exchange to make exchanges with other cryptos, and it's going to, one of its unique selling points is it's going to try and attempt to offer the lowest fees in the space, for example. So when the fees are lower, people will be more attracted to use that exchange. Then it will drive the price of my coins, but I'm actually mining those coins. So I actually own one of the miners that mines these coins. So if you can imagine you had the ability to own a Bitcoin miner that was mining coins, I mean, that would be worth a lot of money right now, but I'm just at in the infancy of a project. So those coins that I'm mining now, which I now have 500,000, I'm mining an average of about 100,000 coins a month. Let's just imagine that coin went to $1.
Same level.
Yeah, it's 500,000. But imagine if the coin went to $180, which is where, for example, Binance at the moment, which is another exchange, which we can compare to the exchange that I've invested into, that then you would times my current portfolio of 500,000 by 180 times 500,000. It's a lot of money. Now, all of these things still are, we can't guarantee that project, for example, will take off. But I look at projects and then I just make my choice really as to where I think that they might have some leverage, and I take a punt, if you like.
Well, yeah, you said that you did have some loss as well when it came to investment, and I think that kind of helps you to grow as well. So before we started the interview, you said to me that you have some massive changes in your life. What is going on?
Yeah, so something that came up in the last week, literally, and this is where I want to share with people who are potentially looking at coming into the space of crypto and blockchain, or looking to financially empower themselves using this new market space, is that we have to be very realistic in this space, that there are scams. And one of the projects that I've been involved in has turned out to be a scam. And I've lost a substantial amount of money. And I always knew that coming into this space, I always said I wanted to diversify, because one, you don't know which projects are going to take off and which aren't. You also have to be realistic in that this is an unregulated market space. And whilst dealing with an unregulated market space, it doesn't matter how much due diligence you do. Yeah, sometimes these opportunities can fall down, or they end up to be a scam. And that appears to be what's happened with one of my projects. But what's interesting is that I knew that this project was high risk, but I got greedy. I saw that the level of return, they were, double what, say, they were in some of my other projects. And I thought, I'll take a risk. I know this is high risk. I know in my heart this potentially looks like a scam. But I've seen other people get paid in and week out for 8 months. It wasn't one that I chose to go into initially, because I did feel it looked like a higher risk, and there wasn't enough due diligence on the founders of who the people behind the company were. But I still then, after 7 months of seeing other people being paid in, week out, I thought, I'll take a punt. And I took a punt, and within 6 days of me being in that opportunity crashed. Now, had it just been my own funds, I would have felt bad, but I would have picked myself up and just get on with it. But because I've built a following in this space, and I have people now who follow what I do, even though I gave a very, very high risk warning to this opportunity, people still chose to follow me, which my strategy was we get in and out within 6 weeks. But the opportunity crashed in 6 days. And I think for me, this was a huge lesson, because when you have other people following your strategy, even though I very much offered a disclaimer, past performance does not equal future results. I'm not technically at this stage a wealth manager. I was just here showing people the results that I've had, but it still hurts 10 times more when somebody has trusted you, and even though you've told them the risks, it crashes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally does make sense. And I'm sure that you are not the first one and not the last one who's gonna deal with this situation. And I think it's very important to mention, if people invest money It's not that you are going to take care of the money and you're going to let it grow for them, but you can be there as an advisor. But
we can't guarantee you can't guarantee any investment. You can't guarantee anything in life. I mean, look what's happened, for example, in the property market with cladding in the UK. We have an issue with cladding on buildings, so therefore a lot of people's properties now are not worth what they thought, and they're having trouble selling them because their building has an issue with cladding. So any type of investment, you have an element of risk. But what I did do, which I think I've done well, is I diversified. And so if you look at my overall balance, I'm still in profit. But what I always say to everybody now is the first step in anything that we do is we work to get out your initial capital. But what I was doing with that higher risk investment was working to get out my higher capital, my initial capital, within 4 to 6 weeks, but we didn't even get to that point. And that's just an example of, yes, this can crash.
Can you say the name of the company, the scam company?
I don't know if I should say it online. People won't be able to invest into it now anyway, because it's offline. Yeah. So I'm not sure where I stand with that on a public podcast. So I've just got to be a bit careful.
No, don't worry. I thought I'm going to ask anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, of course.
Okay, let's talk about your personal projects you have on a side of crypto, because you're very active on a social media.
Right. Yeah, no, again, I mean, to what I found, sorry, I sound like I'm sighing, and I'll explain why to the listeners. I really believe that we are being really controlled within society, and we are brought into a world where they don't want to teach everybody to get rich. So we're not taught what we really need to be taught in schools when it comes to finance, for example, and the economy and how it works. So again, when I look back at this whole mission with financial empowerment, it's not just about stepping away from the kind of the sugar daddy lifestyle, if you like, but also it was about really seeing how the governments and how globally we have been, the majority are kept so small, and how most of the world's wealth is owned by a small percentage of very high net worth families who, there's just a whole load of corruption going on. And it's starting to come out more and more, and people are beginning to wake up. But something that I've recognized is that there's a way that we can circulate money differently, in which we can actually help each other. And they've been doing this in tribal times. It's something called gifting circles. But why I'm being a little bit coy in how I'm speaking about this is because, again, as much as I see the good that we are doing within gifting circles, is that we are being told that now this is illegal. And
how long have you been part of gifting circle?
So I've participated in things like this for a few months, so not a long time, but what have is many people who've been in them for longer, and what I'm seeing so much more than the financial benefit is actually the type of community that we're creating. And what really drives me nuts about when you hear that these things are illegal is, you come into something like this and you never, ever, ever gift more than a few $100s. Okay.
And it's your choice. I just want to make sure that everybody knows it's your choice.
It's absolutely your choice. Yeah, it's absolutely your choice. But what you're actually gaining from this community is coaching, it's mindset, offering some beautiful gifts and services from those that are in the community, and you get all of that for free. And yet I know that there are, and something that I feel strongly about, there are so many supposed labeled coaches out there teaching coaches how to become coaches and charging extortionate amounts. And if people want to pay that, that's fine. And I know there are some really great high-level coaches out there. So I by no means mean everybody. But when there is somebody who comes into the space who's learned basically a network marketing style or affiliate marketing, not affiliate marketing is the wrong word, but they've learned a formula that they can go out and then teach to someone else. Oh, I'm now a business coach. I've paid for a program. I've learned how to become a marketer in the space of, you know, marketing. Social media marketer is the word I was looking for. I can now teach you how to go and get clients. It's not really a coach.
Can I just step in? Don't forget the thought. I'm actually doing an episode on this. I call it. No, it's funny because I just call it a very well marketed fraud.
Yes.
And that is, I'm going to be doing an episode on a spiritual healers.
Yes.
So I'm going to be very open about that. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Well, because exactly what you are talking about. You said to me, you have how many thousands of followers have you got on your Instagram?
I do have, but I'm not active on it, which is why it's not engaged. I think it's about 20,000.
Okay, well, you have 20,000.
17,000. Sorry.
Okay, so 17,000 followers on your Instagram, and you told me yourself that I don't like Instagram because it's all fake.
Yeah, and that's why I don't use it. So I don't have much engagement anymore on my Instagram. I had 25,000 followers a few years back, but I'm not engaged on my Instagram at all anymore. If I'm honest.
What I want to say before you continue what you were saying is that social media and these people who learn to do this formula, and everybody's coach, it's like you click on the profile of somebody who you like the picture of, and it comes up with, come and have a free discovery call with me, and this is what I coach, and this is what I do, and this is how I can help you. But those people are targeting a new people, so I call it like a new souls. So the people who are younger and they're coming into the social media, and they look at their pictures and they're thinking, oh my goodness, I love the way how she looked, I love the lifestyle, I need to sign up to her course or her coaching session because she will help me, or he will help me to become her.
Yes.
Or him. So yeah, that's me.
And it's all fake. And it's all fake because, let's be honest, as a ex-model, I can understand how we do filters. I use filters still sometimes, and we can all make pictures look beautiful, and that's very nice. And we can all sit there with our cup of tea or with our laptop, all looking very fancy, and our little glass of champagne on the side, living the lifestyle. And it is just so fake. And I'm not saying we don't sit with our glass of champagne and our laptop. Trust me, I've done it quite a few times, especially whilst I've been making the money in crypto. But the point being is that it's just so egotistical, and it just honestly, this gets me passionate, and I could speak about this all day because I find all of that coaching thing, I just can't get on board with it. I just find it makes me vomit.
Just want to say about Instagram. However, even all those negative stuff we have said, it is a platform and which you can use to reach your potential customers. So, but you need to be careful who you choose to believe.
Yeah, and also that's the thing. I also don't want to make out like I'm speaking about everything about that industry, because you know, I am looking to go back into empowerment coaching, but I think what's put me off really doing that was the fake part of it. So I want to be an empowerment coach from a very truthful and authentic space. And I just couldn't get on board with the kind of having the marketing side of it. So I'm actually seeking a way at the moment for how can I, and just being as honest as possible and authentic and real as possible is, I think, how I'm going to go out there and do it, because I do want to remarket myself as an empowerment coach, because I know I have so much to offer in terms of energy and teaching people how to work with their energy, and the spiritual teaching that I would like to share with people. But it was actually this whole rise of the, like you just called it, what was it, the
very well marketed fraud.
Yes, the rise of the very well marketed fraud that actually repels me from wanting to be a coach.
You know, I know we talked about Clubhouse, you and I. For those people who don't know, it's a new social platform, and you said that you have so many invitations, but you still haven't started using it. So with Clubhouse, if I can just say something about that, is it's an incredible app. I have connected to very high profile people and people who knows exactly what they're talking about. I can hear them speaking, and then I click on their profile, and you wouldn't believe those people are like millionaires, TED speakers, you know, those TED Talk shows speakers, and they have on 300 or 400 followers on Instagram. They're absolutely normal people, but they have a real value. and it's very easy to use this platform to do what you want to do, or if anybody else is interested, make sure you do jump on a Clubhouse. And those people, you know, I had to send them DM and I said, hi, I said, this is what I do. And I said, would you want to come on a podcast? Can you help me with this? Would you be able to give me advice, and etc. And they respond within 24 hours. I had so many Zoom calls, so many meetings with them, absolutely love them. It's very genuine. Nobody is trying to sell me anything. Nobody is trying to tell me, okay, well, I can offer this to you, so let's dive into how much this is going to cost you monthly. It's actually a free advice. It has been, I'm sure it might change, but so far nobody's been trying to sell me anything. So I'm absolutely obsessed with the app.
Wow, and, I need to get onto Clubhouse.
you totally do. And yeah, you know, like it is linked to your Instagram, so people can follow you on a Clubhouse. They can also follow you on Instagram. But then you can go and do your rooms, and you can do rooms about the empowerment. Like, for example, I have room now on Monday, 11 o'clock, and I am talking about psychic development. So if you want to dive in, I would love to have you. And we talk about crystals on Monday and their power. And it's beautiful. You got guided meditations, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, this episode is not about promoting a Clubhouse.
Oh, that sounds good.
Let's go back. Oh, that sounds good. Let's go back to your personal project. So we were talking about the gifting circle.
Yeah.
And yeah, so can you continue? So I think we ended.
Yeah, no, I was just saying it's quite sad, because I would love to speak about it more publicly, but there's only so much I feel now with what's come up this week. And again, this week has just been a very interesting week for me, in terms of, you know, it becoming to my awareness of people keep saying that these are illegal, you know, and so that has now brought fear into me in terms of how I share this. It is a closed community, but yeah, I mean, I know we're live actually on the podcast right now, and maybe I should have addressed this before, but I think it's interesting actually to share this with the listeners of what's now, from my perspective, been something so beautiful and transformational, and something that has been going on for many years, back since tribal times. Again, governments or whoever are coming in and trying to scare people not to come into these things. I mean, again, we've taken some legal advice, so there's an element that we believe this isn't illegal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we're offering something really beautiful, but at the same time now there is a fear in me to be necessarily promoting it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're actually addressing that this week within what we're doing, because we've built this amazing community. We've got beautiful, incredible souls in there. We're offering, as I said, free mind. We've got a mindset class tonight, how to overcome fear of rejection, which is something that we all could use. You know, it's not just something you would use within inviting people into a gifting circle. You know, you could use that as in sales, in life, in relationships. So we're offering this amazing combination of master classes, strategy calls, like it's all spiritual teaching. We've had healing sessions in there, and this is all free of charge. So, and yet, because we've added a financial element to it, in which, you know, a gifting circle, you can come in, you gift a small amount, and then in return, during these cycles, you're in a 4-week cycle, you can receive up to 8 times more than what you've gifted. And this is like a new circulation of wealth. And people say, oh, well, somewhere down the line, someone will always lose. But the way we see it is, well, first of all, no, if everybody continued and everybody would just in their second week find 2 people that want to come into this circle from a place of love, from a place of abundance and prosperity, and for they want to come and step into this journey of learning and expansion, because that's really what this is, far more than what you receive financially from this circle. This is a chance for you to step up. I have seen so many women come into this circle, and men, and transform, like literally in front of my eyes over a period of a few weeks, going from being nervous, feeling in fear or feeling alone, to suddenly feeling connected, to suddenly feeling like they found purpose, finding joy, meeting new friends. It's a network. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we definitely need a community and we definitely need a support. So
yeah, and especially during the pandemic. So I get testimonials. I get people. We do a call on a Tuesday. Sorry, like a testimonial Tuesday, and just the amount of gratitude I have from people who say, "Thank you so much for holding the space for this. I've gained so much from this." So really, the money is a byproduct. But the reason why I'm being a bit coy about speaking about it, even though I have chosen to still step up and speak publicly, that could put me at risk, but I still stand by my truth that what we are offering is something that I know is changing lives. So I feel very proud about that.
No, I completely agree with you, and I'm very thankful for you sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So what other personal projects have you got, or what advice have you got for the listeners? So what advice have you got for listeners, how they can become financially independent?
Okay, so financial independent really begins with you setting the intention that this is what you want. Okay, and you have to know that you really want it, because it takes you to get uncomfortable. We all say, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm sure many people have heard that saying. It's a big saying in the personal development world. And it really is true. Like, it's going to take action. It's going to take you learning something new. That's one of the biggest secrets, I would say, and that's not a secret, but key or tip would be, be prepared to learn something new and give it your all. Set the intention that that is what you want. And look at opportunities in which you can receive what I call passive income. So where you're not trading time for money. So trading time for money would be a job, a 9 to 5, or, you're going to work, and that's absolutely fine. And if you love your job, that's amazing, but it's never going to make you wealthy. It's never going to allow you to expand financially. So if you look at any entrepreneur, anybody who's had a relative of financial success, they will always have they say millionaires have an average of 5 passive income streams. So look at opportunities that will offer you that.
Thank you so much. My last question for you is, where can listeners find you and get in contact with you?
Okay, so I'm currently in the process of having my website redone, but I'll put it here because it will be alexandracprince.com. So www.alexandracprince.com, or you can find me on my personal Facebook page. I'm very organic in my marketing, which is Alexandra Prince. I rarely go on Instagram, but my Instagram handle is @Alexandra_C_Prince. So you can find me there, but just instant messenger, really. I've run a lot of my business on instant messenger through Facebook. So Alexandra Prince. And I think the handle to find it is Alexandra Prince Coach, which is quite funny after saying I didn't like the term coach. But yeah, so just find me on there, or you can just message me at alexandra@alexandracprince.com.
Thank you for listening. I hope you have enjoyed this episode and that you have gained a lot of information. As I have just launched this podcast, I have decided to give 2 lucky listeners a free psychic reading each month for the period of next 3 months. These readings will be a combination of a tarot and a psychic channeling. To enter, all you need to do is leave a review in the iTunes store, take a screenshot of it, send it to me on barbramayShow@gmail.com, which is BARBRAMAYSHOW@gmail.com. As you may already know, reviews are very important for podcasts, and they will help podcasts to expand and direct the important topics discussed to the appropriate audience. At the end of every month, I will announce the winner on my Instagram, which is @TheBarbraMayShow. So keep your eyes peeled, and I cannot wait to see you on the next episode.